Okay, now we are live. So welcome all to another Ask Your Mentor Anything Live, Friday Lives, every Friday with a different topic about the business side of the translation. But today we're actually going to touch both the business side and the practical, actually, localization process rather than just translation process. So we wait some people to join us, Dorota. Before introducing our speaker today, and thank you so much for accepting my invitation, Dorota. I see people coming in.
Thank you.
Yeah, I will give you just a minute to the stage. Let us know in the comments if the sound is okay, if the picture is okay, and where you are watching us from, so as to see that you're here, because I see some people joining us. And since we had some 30 plus new people in the group, just a few seconds to introduce the initiative. Those are interviews related to the business side of the translation. I invite speakers like Dorota Pawlak today that you tell me, so you can suggest me speakers, you can reach me out directly, or you can fill in the form you will find in the description box. And we cover topics that our participants in the Mentoring for Translators group are really interested to learn or to discuss about. Hello, ladies. This is Julia. In order to see your names, you need to click the link of StreamYard to allow you, and allow us to see your names. If you have any questions, definitely use a comment. So before we start, just to introduce the initiative is the Ask Your Mentor Anything Friday Lives. We go once per week live, and we cover different topics every week. Hello to Poland. About the business side of the translation, there are more than, I think, 90 videos already on my YouTube channel, and you will find them as well in the live section or video section of our Mentoring for Translators group. And we broadcast at the same time live now on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook group, Mentoring for Translators, which is a private, safe community. So I invite you to join us if you're not a member. But if you wish to watch it publicly, you can do it either on LinkedIn, my LinkedIn account, my YouTube channel, Virginia Katsimpiri, and my Facebook public page. And Dorota, you can share also the events through Facebook later. She's public, so to your pages and so on. And last but not least, to invite you to my new program starting on Monday. So you have at least 3 days to join us before the doors close, the Ultimate LinkedIn Prospecting System. And I'm taking some time from Dorota, sorry for that. That's the last reminder. So for those of you who want to start getting clients and have a system on how to get clients through LinkedIn, definitely join is a business mentoring program, lasts 3 months, and ask me if you have any questions directly. Okay, I don't want to take more time. So today's topic, how to excel at mobile app and website localization. We haven't met. This is Dorota Pawlak. Dorota, welcome, and thank you for accepting my invitation. How are you?
Thank you. Hey, thank you. Thank you for having me. Yes, I'm fine. How are you?
Fine. Thank you so much. You're in the Netherlands, as we discussed yesterday, but we know each other. I usually say how we've met. I think we've met the first time. Was it in Poland at TLC? You remember? Some conference.
It was a conference. It was either an IAPT conference or conference in Warsaw or BP. One of these.
Yeah. So we are active at conferences, international conferences with Dorota, and this is how we met. And of course, Dorota is a public speaker herself, and I know that you cover different topics like motherhood and freelancing at the same time, and you have also a new book coming. So if you would like to introduce yourself to those that they might not know you already.
Sure. So my name is Dorota Pawlak. I'm a translator and localizer. Since I became a mother, I also started helping other freelancing women to find their way between motherhood and freelancing. That's why I published my book, which you just mentioned. That was 6 months ago. So my main business activity is localization, translation. I have a master in multilingual computing and localization in translation. So I help companies, mobile app developers, or small businesses to expand to other cultures, especially to the Polish market.
Do you have any degree on localization or website, or just this happened through your experience through the year?
Yeah, so I started just through learning by myself, so from online courses, or I studied a little bit of IT in the past, but then I graduated from the Master of Science program at the University of Limerick. That was multilingual computing and localization. So that was to gain even more knowledge, more skills.
Amazing. What university was that you mentioned?
Limerick in Ireland.
there was an interrupting the connection. Okay, so we will start with the most common questions like mentees have, like how did you start out as a translator, if you remember, and you would like to share your story, and if you remember the first client you got.
So I started when I was still studying in my master program. So I always knew I want to work for myself. I didn't want to work in some big company. So I always felt that at some point I will open my business after I graduate, and that's what happened. Actually, 1 month after I graduated, I opened my business. Of course, with not much business knowledge or marketing skill, I just knew how to translate, and I knew I want to translate. So I learned everything on the go. Your question was why I started, or what was my first client? Yes.
Well, you started as a professional, and if you remember, how did you get your first client? This is the most common question.
Yes. So as I said, because I started out directly after university, I didn't have business skills or marketing skills. So I started from work with agencies, and then I started discovering that there is so much more to translation than just working for an agency. So then I was working on my skills to be able to work with direct customers. So my first client was an agency, and later through networking, through going to conferences, networking to other translators, going to conferences where my target clients are, I started also to have more direct customers.
Mm-hmm. So you remember any scale-up moment that you had with their clients, or the moment that you started working with their clients, or any success story in your career that you would like to share?
Yes, I think what helped me the most was following other translators on Twitter. That's how I discovered that there are so many other successful business translators who also share their skills, their experience in books or in online courses. What helped me a lot was Marta Stelmaszak's Business School for Translator. So all this together helped me to scale up and to move from working for agencies to have a mix of both direct customers and agencies.
There is a connection issue, but okay, we'll do it, I suppose. Yeah, sometimes you're frozen. You remember the moment, for example, you got a very big project, or you were very happy with a very big client that you got?
It wasn't very big, but I think I was very happy when I got my first direct customer. That was through a recommendation. So I was recommended to some business owners in Poland. So my family recommended me. So they know a lot of business owners. So that was helpful. And also I got a lot of recommendations from other translators. So the moment I got my first direct customer, I was extremely happy, obviously. It wasn't a big project. It wasn't very exciting project, but I was very happy that someone actually is recommending me and someone is happy with my work. And that was about 9 years ago.
Amazing. I think many translators, they would like to be like you, or they wait for the moment to get into their client's market. So thank you for sharing this story. And definitely through your words, I really understand how the family environment might play a role in order to grow your business, referrals and recommendations. And actually the fact that you mentioned you got clients through referrals from other colleagues, which is actually a topic to all of our discussions. Should I have other colleagues in my network? Should I have, for example, other colleagues or translators? Aren't they competitors, and so on? So always there is such discussion. But I suppose through what you already described, you have other translators and you see them as collaborators and potential people that they bring you clients. Is that correct?
Yeah, definitely. And you don't have to be afraid of networking with people with the same language pair as yours. So I recommend a lot of other English to Polish or German to Polish translators to my clients, because they offer me projects that are not from my specialty, or I don't have time. So then I recommend other English to Polish translators to them, and other English to Polish, German to Polish translators recommend me. But I think I get more recommendations from translators from other language pairs, especially if we have one language in common. So let's say it's a German to English translator would recommend me as a German to Polish translator. So it definitely is beneficial to network with our colleagues.
Amazing, because yes, we had this discussion also on Clubhouse about LinkedIn, and if we have colleagues or from the same language combination. And as you mentioned, I really agree with you that we have this difference, we can say, in our profession, like we don't undertake all language combinations and we do not have all specializations. So if you're specialized, you will get a recommendation for your own specialization, even from other translators that they actually translate in the same language as yours. So thank you for mentioning that. And it's a great, I think, new translators, starting out translators, they learn a lot from your stories. Last question, I think, is if you have any most efficient way of getting clients, but you mentioned already conferences and networking with other colleagues. Is that correct?
So before the pandemic, what was really working for me was to go out to the conferences and events where my target customers are. So that would be technology conferences or conferences for mobile app developers or game developers. There are plenty of them in Amsterdam, but also across Europe and across the whole world. So it really was very helpful to go out and be where they are physically. But now everything moved online. So still networking online helps a lot through LinkedIn, through Facebook, not so much, but sometimes it's also helpful, or through Twitter. But what really helped me a lot is my blog. So I have one blog on localization and another for like freelancers.
Your blog
So this helped me to attract some customers, and also I had some articles published in magazines that my target customers read. So that helped to attract some queries as well. So I would say networking online and offline is the most beneficial for me.
Okay, that is so great. So now we are entering in our topic, because you also teach translators how to get into localization of mobile apps and websites. So if you would like to start with that, we have several questions from you from yesterday, so I have written down. But let's start, for example, how to develop the skills, or if you would like to get into the topic your own way, I'm open.
So I will start from what can you do to specialize as a mobile app or website translator. So I think if you want to add a new skill, which is localizing websites or mobile apps, you can follow online courses, which, well, there are also many free courses. There's, for example, Localization Essentials by Google. This is offered via Udacity, and that's a free course. So you can start from there. You can start reading localization magazines such as Multilingual. You can follow blogs on localization. There are also many books on localization. Also, you can also read books on localization. There are quite many, especially about game localization. So books, blogs, magazines, online courses. Also, you can follow my online course, and social media. So you could join Facebook or LinkedIn group where your target customers are. So let's say you want to localize mobile apps, then ideally you could join some groups for developers. So in this way, you will see what they talk about, what are their problems, or even what language they use when they talk about localization, because they don't necessarily have to call localization. Maybe they just say, oh, let's make my mobile app multilingual, or let's add more languages to my website. So you will start noticing what language they use or when they actually want to talk about localization, and then you can use the same language to talk to them. And there are also a lot of platforms, online platforms for developers or technology companies, and it's really useful to read these as well. So some examples would be The Next Web, and that's all about technology. There's, for example, there are few platforms about mobile app developers, for example, App Advice or DZone. So it's quite useful to read their articles or follow their blogs or join their communities. So I think if you want to start specializing localization, you have to start reading and start engaging engaging with other people from that field.
Amazing. You gave so many resources. I hope I'm taking notes. Ghost says hello. Would you later add the resources you mentioned? I'm on the go and couldn't write them down, so I was supposed that someone would.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dorota is a member of our community, so you can definitely discuss later underneath this video in our group, or we will share the contact details of Dorota anyway. I would love to have the resources in the group, so as people that they watch the recording as well, to be able to participate in the discussion. So yes, so many resources. But I always had in my mind, like someone getting into localization when localization became like our part of our services that we provide the recent years, that someone should have an IT background or should be aware of how, for example, because you mentioned web developers groups, and I was questioning myself, what if I don't understand what we're talking about, even if I have localized already websites and casino and online games, and I have participated as a translator Greek for the team of Google of speech to text, for example, that we had a project. So I've been in such a project, but to be honest, I don't have an IT background. And I find it really difficult at some point to get into real discussion with IT people. Do you have any suggestion for that?
Yes, so it definitely helps to have some IT background, but if you don't have it, it's still not too late. So you can follow, again, online courses. You can, for example, check out online courses on how to create mobile apps or how to localize mobile apps. You don't have to understand everything what they talk about. You can also watch the same course several times. And there are also many free courses on Udemy, for example. Or you can watch tutorials or read tutorials for developers. These are for free, usually. You can find, well, not usually, but you can find free tutorials for developers. So it's quite easy to advance your IT skills. Of course, if you studied IT before, it helps, but you can still take your skills to the next level through online courses, through tutorials, or even through reading platforms or articles and news for developers. And of course, you might not understand everything at the beginning, but well, you are a translator. As a translator, we have also the research skills. So when you can start researching the terminology or research the concepts, and then you will be able to understand more and more with every discussion that you read or with every article that you read. You have to start somewhere.
Definitely. And as I always say, I don't know if you agree or not, we don't need to be a doctor to be a medical translator. At least this is my opinion. You can learn the parts of our profession that are needed. Yeah. But I've seen many IT people be also localization expert or be involved in the localization process of very big companies. Like last Friday, we have Marta that does also courses about CAD tools, and she was in the IBM, for example, team of translators, and she started as an IT background herself as well. And I know many people also on Google that in the localization department that they don't have a translator's background, rather than, I would say, lately translators getting into localization. It started from IT people. I suppose you know that.
Yeah.
And the next question would be how to start with getting clients. And we had from Sarah yesterday one question, like if I want to get agencies, she says, here, or if I would like, as a starting out in this area, would it be best to start with agencies, and where can I find clients from this industry?
So let's start with the question about agencies. So if you're just starting out, you may, if you want to start working with an agency, of course, if it's a good agency, but you have to make sure there is someone who will help you through the process, because you might not have all the necessary skills yet. But in most cases, an agency will ask you only, when you localize a website, to only localize a text. They won't ask you to do other tasks, such as give your advice on whether the images are culturally specific or not. So it might be a good idea to start from working with a good agency or a localization agency. But you don't have to. You can also learn a lot through working with other colleagues. You can, for example, team up with some senior translator, someone who is specialized in localization, and learn through working with them. You can also apply for an internship to a localization agency, localization company, or to localization team in another company. And there are also some of you can work on volunteering basis. So there are some projects when you can volunteer your skills, and these projects also involve localization. So you can start doing this as well. What else? So another question was about marketing. So if you want to start attracting the first customers, well, there's nothing new I can tell you here. You have to do what you would normally do if you were to attract clients from other fields. You have to first do a market research. You have to know who is your ideal customer, where they are online and offline, what they do, how they talk. So if you create your ideal customer image and you know whether they prefer, for example, Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn, then you simply go and network there. So I've noticed, for example, if you want to attract developers, so for your mobile app localization projects, it's a good idea to be a member of a group where developers are. And they usually hang out on Facebook, not so much on Twitter. And LinkedIn also, but I've noticed that mobile app developers are more active in Facebook groups. So this is one place when you can meet them. And of course, when you join a group, it doesn't necessarily mean you will start getting new customers. No, you just join a group to network, and through taking part in discussions or sharing your knowledge, maybe someone will be interested in your skills. What also helps are events for mobile app developers. There are really, well, there used to be many events. Now everything moved online. So some example, there was a Code Motion, that's an Italian organization, but they also have some events in the Netherlands, in Italy, in other countries. What else was there? There was an event. There was App Builders, there was a Code Mobile in the UK. So there are really, really many interesting events for mobile app developers when you can network and find your potential customer, but at least have some, have opportunity to expand your skills. And there are also many, what I've mentioned before, magazines and platforms for technology companies and mobile app developers. And finally, communities. So there's the developers are really active on Quora or Reddit. So that's where they have their forums. They ask questions that, well, you can answer if you specialize in a specific field, or if you're a localizer, or sometimes they ask questions about languages. So there's this community called Stack Overflow. So the main purpose, I will give you all this information later in the comments. I know that's a lot. So Stack Overflow is a community for programmers, for developers, and the main purpose here is to ask coding questions or find answers to your coding questions. But they also have a little part called Stack Exchange, where they talk about other topics. And last time I checked, they also were talking about languages and culture. So someone was asking, what's the difference in translating some specific word from German into English? So then you can join a developer community as a translator, and you can still answer these language-specific questions. And in this way, you showcase your expertise. So.
You know why I think people ask like that, even though we know that the same is the process to get clients in every of our services or fields. I think because they feel that they lack the confidence to actually get into conversation with IT or web developers, and actually to distinguish the difference between the actual translation and localization, and how to be able to identify clients that really need localization. Because I see it both directions. I get many projects from agencies that they ask me for translation rate where actually the project is localization and they don't call it localization. And I think that way also they train the wrong way starting out translators, so they are not able to distinguish the difference. And then it's even more difficult afterwards to find clients that they really need localization instead, in comparison to translation. So I think this is a main problem we see here in our profession. I've seen that from other colleagues and also from the projects that I get from agencies. I know that most of the times they do it because they want to lower the rates, because they know whenever I call it as a localization, I have a different rate, and we can discuss rates later. And the other thing that I would like to add here, and I would like your opinion, is that I see so many also conversation, discussion among translators, that there are some translators that they say, I don't see a difference in localization and translation. What I do is I actually translate when I localize. So I would really like to get into that and tell me what are the more aspects you mentioned, like important rather than just the text. I have my own opinion. I can tell you very shortly that I believe localization is very different than translation, because I localize means that I might also be obliged to change the currency, for example, when I localize to the local one, or the time zone, some very simple, okay, but this is localizing for me, whereas translation is just translating but keeping the same currency but translating the name into that currency in the target text, or keeping the same time zone but just translating the time zone in a text. This is very simple. Okay, I can say I'm not a localization expert. I've done some localization projects and I really enjoy the process. But what's your opinion on that? Because translators, they seem to have different opinions, and also agencies, sometimes they don't play a very good role in order to distinguish the differences between translation and localization.
So let's start from the term localization. So how I was taught at the university. So the very academic definition of localization is that it involves cultural, technical, and language skills. And it's always about the digital product. So localization will be related to transferring a mobile app, a software or a website to another culture, when you also have to have some technical expertise, cultural expertise, and language expertise. Now, it's not only about the text, as you mentioned. You have to adapt a lot of little details, such as, well, measurements, data, or time zones are just some examples, but it goes beyond that. So some people mention colors or images. Yes, you have to adapt these as well. And even if you don't do it personally as a translator, then you always, when you are a localizer, when you localize websites or apps, you always need that skill to be able to advise your customer to change the image, or you suggest, okay, this image will not resonate with my culture, you have to change it with this and that. So you have to be able to give your advice and to provide arguments, what your customers can do to adapt the content to your target culture and language in a better.
Can you give us an example of a photo? Because I'm really like, I have in my mind like more Asian or Muslim cultures that definitely we need, okay, to localize there based on the religion and also the culture. But can you give us a European or something that you have dealt with in your career, like as a photo you mentioned, the colors or something similar? Do you have an example?
Okay, you are right that most European cultures are similar, but still there are some differences. So some cultures will be more collectivistic and some will be more individual. So if you have an individualistic culture, such as, let's say, US, then they usually represent pictures of one person or just very, very small group. If you have a collectivistic culture, and there are a few cultures like this in Europe as well, I think, okay, not extremely collectivistic as Japan or India or China, but there are still some more collectivistic cultures in Europe. Then you would have to include pictures of groups, for example. Don't show just one person using your product, but show a group, or include some loyalty programs or chats, some items on your website when people can feel that they belong to a group. So it doesn't have to be necessarily about changing images or colors. That would be for extreme differences between cultures, like, let's say, adapting an American website to a website for Middle East or for Asia. Then you probably need more changes. But if you adapt between, let's say, from one European country to another, you have to look into subtle differences, like, for example, how your customer react to aggressive promotions. For example, in the US, when you have a website and you see everywhere discount, sale, click now, join our program now, this is perfectly fine. They are used to this aggressive sales, the aggressive promotion, but some cultures prefer more subtle or a softer approach to sales and and selling. So then you would have to change this, all these phrases or strategies to something more in between the lines. And it's also about how your customers take purchase decision, or whether they are eager to act now. If you tell them act now to take advantage of this discount, whether they will really act now, or do they need, for example, some more information to reduce the risk. Example, Germany is usually perceived as a culture that is high on uncertainty avoidance, so they need more information before they purchase a product. So that's why on your website you would have to include, for example, very detailed product return policy, or you would have to mention how many awards your company have, or assure your customers that your sales transactions, also the financial transactions, are secure. So do as much as you can to reduce their uncertainty.
And I think that's something that you learn on the way, like also it changes every year or every 10 years, for example, the culture itself changes and develops. So it's something that you have to learn every year, or to be updated to the developments of your product, or the specialization that you have, in order to know what's the latest, I don't know, trends in the industry. I don't know how that works.
Also, can I just add something? So it's not only about the culture itself, but also about your target users. So even though you localize a website, I don't know, for German market, but your target group might be totally different. Have totally different features than a general German culture. So you have to do a market research on your target users in that specific culture.
And I think that's the main difference between working for an agency as a localization expert or specialist and to direct clients, because with direct clients, you need to provide all this information, whereas with an agency, you're more or less, okay, you can make some comments or add-ons, but definitely the final word is the agency there. Well, thank you so much. I think this is very valuable what you've shared so far. Now I have the 1 million question, like I get from most of the mentees in the group. And if you scroll down, you will see many comments and questions about this topic. So my client is sending me a link to their website, and they are asking me to provide the code, or to actually provide localization, okay, to localize their website to that specific language, for example. I assume that you've answered that many times, but here we got so many questions, so I'd love your opinion on that, and if you have any specific tools on how to deal in such situations.
So this question comes up really very frequently. So there are many methods you can use. Well, first of all, always insist on your customer to receive the files, because that's the way to guarantee that you will include everything and you'll be able to deliver good results. So always insist on receiving the source files. But if that's not possible for some reason, it doesn't mean you are doomed to copy and paste the content. You can still avoid that manual work by using one of the 5 or 6 methods. So the first one is you can use a so-called website copier tool. So it's a tool. These tools are free. An example is HTTrack or Website Downloader. It's a tool that simply copies the whole content of the website. So the downside of this method is that you will end up with all the files that the website is made of. Okay. So both translatable and non-translatable files. And you will have to, once the website downloads, it can take a while, you have to go through all the files and search for the translatable files. Then you feed them into your cut tool. Then you can assess the word count and actually localize. So this approach will...
Files in docx, in Word format, what are the files that you get?
So these are the original files that are uploaded to the server. So if the website is in HTML, you will see HTML files, but also all the images. It will download everything. So the whole resources.
But you mentioned earlier to ask our clients for the files, the source files. I suppose you mentioned to send us either text or Word doc files.
Yes. That will be HTML. Yes. Ideally HTML, but sometimes they would also simply copy and paste the text that is available on the website, and then they will provide you the text in the Word file, for example. Or they may...
why you mention ideally HTML? So I make here the stupid questions. Why ideally HTML?
Well, yeah. Yes, so if the website is in HTML, it makes sense to work on the HTML file rather than on the Word file that has the text that was copied from the website, right? Because then you can see the text. Then you can see the text in the content.
You can do that on a CAT tool, like to work on the HTML file.
Yeah. Oh, yes, of course. Of course. All the CAT tools, at least the mainstream CAT tools, support HTML.
All of this in your courses. So if you have more details about that,
of course,
everything in your courses. Here we have only 20 more minutes, so let's discuss on that. So you mentioned HTTP track. Is that correct? As a tool?
HTTP. Track or website copier. So, well, you have to remember it will copy the whole content of the website, and it may not work with some very complicated websites that are really that have, I know, hundreds of pages. But for small websites, for HTML websites, it will work just fine. I just tested it recently on my website. It really downloaded everything, and I could easily find my translatable files as well. So another option, and again, it's great if you deal with a small website with, I know, 5, 6, 7 pages, is you simply open every website in your browser and you right-click, and there's an option Save As, and you save the page as HTML. And then you have, but then you have to remember, you have to click everywhere, right? So you have to go to every menu item, you have to click on every page that you can see on the website, and you save it as an HTML. And then you have your 5, 6, or I don't know how many pages that you add to your CAT tool. Then you can see the word count and you can start localizing. Then another option would be to use one of the tools that offers so-called live translation. So the idea here is that you only provide a link, and then you will be able to translate directly in the user interface, so in how the website looks like. So an example here is a Transifex. So they also offer a 15 trial version, so you can test it. And the great thing about it is that if you only provide a link, you can also download the file, an HTML file that will have the content of the website, and then you can use that file in your CAT tool. You don't have to use Transifex to localize that specific website. You can feed that file to your CAT tool. Another option is, so if your customer uses a control management system, such as WordPress, Drupal, or Shopify, you can ask your client to give you access to the control management system, and then you can use plugins to translate and localize the website. For example, for a WordPress website, you could use a plugin called Translate Press or Polylang or Wiglot. But
exactly,
here,
that's what I love. Yeah, I was about to mention those tools, but those you get only the word count. Is that correct?
No. So these are the plugins. So like if you have a WordPress website, let's say you just add the plugin, and it will give you all the possibilities to create your website in another language, and also you can create a menu for language choice. So you can either display languages or flags, or flags is not a very great method to choose a language. So you could choose the menu with languages. But then the downside of this approach is that your customer has to provide you with the login data to the control management system. And then I've noticed that if they don't have time, or they are not willing to send you the source files, they are even less likely to give you the access to their WordPress website, for example. But there is an option you can translate, localize a website with a plugin. It's not as user-friendly as localizing a website in a CAT tool. For example, there's no translation memory, at least in the plugins I tested. But still, you can translate every single item on the website.
And also my next question would be, like, if you don't use a CAT tool, you won't be able to estimate the project in such a plugin. Not only you lose the CAT, you lose the memory, so you work like double there. And also it's more time for you. You need to become familiar with the platform. So you need to take into consideration that it most probably will be more time consuming to use this method. Of course. You only use that. So you have become somehow familiar. And I don't know about the word count. You were about to mention something.
Yes. Well, just the word count, I will talk about it in a bit. So there are two tools I will tell you that you can use to assess the word count. So yes, you are right that the plugins, it's quite limiting, especially if you are used to working with cat tools. There are two more methods you can use. So there are so-called scraping tools. So the scraping tools simply extract the text from a website. But then if you use it, you will only have the text without the context. So for example, you will be able to retrieve all the text from the whole website, but it will be exported only in a Word file, for example. So you will not know where it was, what was the text before or after the specific paragraph. But sometimes it's the only option, and still it will help you extract all the words. So then you will be able to assess the word count. And finally, well, which is the best method if you don't have access to the source file, is to ask your customer for the FTP access. But then again, if they don't want to provide source files, they may not be really very happy about providing you with the access to their FTP. But then if you have the...
Again, my comment would be that this is more time for you, that you get more possibilities for accessing such a file. Yeah. So those are also things that you need to take into consideration when you
of course, yeah. And if you if you get the access to their FTP, you have to again go through all the content and download the translatable files. Then you localize them in a cat tool, and then you ask your customer if they want you to upload them back to FTP, and so then you have to recreate the right website structure or deliver via email. So yeah, these are the 6 methods you can.
Yeah, from my own experience so far, I would love your opinion on that. So when I get projects from agencies, I get them in a Word file, and I work them in a cat tool. I don't have any other option there.
Yeah.
When I get to a client, they usually send me either the link or Word files from the source text. And the last time that I worked for clients like Google, okay, through a subcontractor, as a subcontractor to another company, I was working on a platform of Google, of course, with an account there, but it was okay, pretty easy. Still, though, I didn't have any cat tools, I didn't have any memory. It was their platform, and I never have access to this again. So this is up to now my experience, and usually what we do with their clients, we are limited there. So we get them a Word file with the translation of the text. Of course, it's a localization because you still need to put cultural, there aspects as well, as you mentioned, like also creating the more conversational text in an environment for the audience in the local market, for example. And but still, it's a Word file. And HTML, yes, it's very difficult to get in the direct clients or to educate them. If it's difficult to educate direct clients for translation project, imagine how much more difficult might be for localization, unless those direct clients, they are tech companies or web mobile apps, so web developers, as you mentioned. So, okay, then it makes sense. But when it comes to HTML file, you work them directly in a cat tool. Is that correct? I got it right?
Yes. And you are right. Usually, if you work with app developers or technology companies, they will really send you the raw source file, so the HTML or any other file that they actually uploaded to the server. Working from a Word file is really very inconvenient. You can still do it, but you have to have the website open to see the context. But that's like double work.
Or so, take this final responsibility, the owners of the website or the direct clients themselves. Or you charge a bit more for any adjustments when they upload, or they format the final text on their website. So you can add, for example, additional time for consultation on that, or additional time to make any corrections when it's needed. Up to now, that's my experience and how it works. I don't know if this is correct or not, and if you have any suggestions on how to improve the actual experience with clients and their clients.
Yeah, well, what you mentioned, we just have to educate the clients and tell them why it's important to actually receive the raw file. So let's say HTML file if it's a website, or XML or iOS string file if it's a mobile app. It simply helps you to deliver better quality, and then you can also see how the website will look like once it's published. So then if you localize it, if you have the final version in HTML, you go through it again, and you can also adapt, do some cosmetic changes as well. Compared to the situation when you only have a Word file, you deliver it in the Word file, then the customer puts it to the website, then you still, or someone has to check how it looks like and do cosmetic testing and linguistic testing. So it just takes more time.
Yeah, for Greek, for example, the Greek language is much longer. So when it comes to specific characters number, we have that issue the whole time. Can I mention some tools like, for example, EasyLink? Or wordcount.wiglot or SEO.
I was just about to say that, yes.
Okay, wordcounter.net. So some tools that we have shared already, and SiteSacker for Macs. Do they work the same way, those ones that I just mentioned? Or
Yeah, so I was just about to mention that if you only want to assess the word count, so you don't have to go through all these methods I just mentioned to download all the files. There are two tools which I know are reliable. I use them. Well, at least they were always they always delivered good results when I needed them. So yes, EasyLink gives pretty accurate word assessment, and the wordcount.wiglot.com, so the word count tool from Wiglot. These two were always working good for me. They're working well for me. So in any case, if you use any of this tool just to assess the words, I think it's ideal if you use at least two tools and check what word count they give you, and then or three tools, and then come up with the average, because sometimes they will give you different word count.
And this is only for the states that you just want to give an estimate to your clients, or provide a quote or an estimate of the project. So thank you so much. I think we covered so many. I think also we talked about how to adapt the content to another culture. Is that correct? Is there anything else you would like to add about the cultural aspect?
Yeah, we mentioned some examples. So
discussed that.
Yes.
Okay, and how to process the files when you work with their clients. I think this is what we just covered. Is that correct?
Well, you simply have to know which tools support which file formats. It's normally there should be no problems with website, and there should be no problem when you translate localized Android apps. But if you localize iOS apps, you have to remember that the mainstream desktop tools don't support iOS string file format. So then you would have to use one of the online localization tools, such as PO Editor or SmartCut or Localize. These three can deal with the iOS string files, whereas MemoQ or Trados, they don't support this file format. So that's the main thing to remember.
Can you give us an example of a problem that we have with the string file that you mentioned?
So the iOS apps have a different strings file. It's called simply, the extension is simply strings. Yes, and in
for those Android, that don't know about localization, what are the strings files?
So the strings files are simply are the files that contain only the strings, so only the text that you see displayed in the app. So in mobile app development localization, you don't store the text together with the code. It's always separate. So every string has some identifier, some name, and that name is assigned later in the code somewhere, right? So you can take that text assigned to the identifier from a different language file. So the strings file contains only the text displayed in the mobile app, and the files used in iOS have different extension, different formats that files used in Android. And so the mainstream desktop tools don't support the file format that is used in iOS apps. So that's why you would have to use one of the online tools I've just mentioned. So that's to sum up.
Amazing. You mentioned Localize, you mentioned
PO Editor and SmartCut. These three deal with iOS strings file.
I've heard most the second two that I've seen people using. So it's totally different mobile app localization website. I think it becomes a bit more complex, or you need to have some more tech knowledge in that aspect. I have got it right.
Yes, especially if you work with direct customers.
Amazing. Okay, so this is why Dorota has two different courses. For those that they are just starting out and you would like to learn, for example, what are strings files, what are the differences between an iOS app that you need to localize or a regular one, and what files you need to ask from your clients and things that are basics. I suppose there is the starting course, which is the name. Dorota, do you remember? I'm going to share.
Yes, it's how to translate and localize websites. That's an introductory course. And the second, yes, and the second, the advanced, is simply how to translate and localize websites level 2. And there's a third course on mobile apps.
Wow, only for mobile apps. So I suppose this is really helpful. Imagine how much knowledge there is there. So as to create only a course about, okay, so I'm sending the link to sign up, and also Dorota is going to share a coupon, okay, during the checkout with a 15% discount, okay, and you can get this discount until Monday, March 1st. So link to sign up to Dorota's courses are here in the comments. And of course, we're going to share all the resources later in the group. And of course, Dorota is a member of our group, so you can discuss with Dorota. And the code is localized now with Z, and I'm going to share also the code, and the discount is 50% for those that they sign up through the link we are sharing right now. Until Monday. So I've shared it everywhere online. It's the link that you sent me to Skype. I suppose I did the right thing. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So if you have more questions about the courses or about localization and the topic we had today, you can comment below this video. You will find it in the Mentoring for Translators group, on my LinkedIn channel, Facebook public page, and of course my YouTube channel. So if you have more questions about how to get into the localization industry, how to find clients, or where to start in order to become specialized, or even more tech information that you would like, more advanced level questions, definitely you can ask Dorota directly. And of course, you can take a look at the courses, because there are 3 different courses. So one for those that they're starting out in localization, for those they want to excel in both mobile app and website localization. There is one specifically devoted only to mobile app localization, and I now understand why from our discussion. Was there anything else you would like to add, Dorota, before we go to one last question if we have? Is there anything else you would like to cover and we didn't discuss it?
Oh, there are so many things we could discuss, but not in such a short time. No, I think we covered the most important topics, yes.
Okay, me too. So for those that you are watching the recording, we are very sorry there were some connection issues, but I hope that the recording will be better than the live. So you can definitely watch the recording. It will remain up to now is forever in our library, in the Mentoring for Translators group, or my YouTube channel, Virginia Katsimpiri, or video lives in my Facebook public page. You can definitely, whenever you watch the recording, use the hashtag replay, and you can ask anything by tag Dorota or myself in the comments below, and you will find information about how to start specializing as a mobile app or website translator, how to find customers in the field of mobile app and website localization, how to process the files when you work with clients, and what you can do up the content to another culture, because also culture is really important when it comes to localization, and much more. Of course, Dorota shared so many resources that I've taken so many notes here, 2 pages notes, and of course we're going to continue the discussion in the group, in the comments. And of course, take this opportunity, because Dorota has 15% discount for those that they use the links we've said in the comments. Use those links, and the code localize now with Z. You're welcome. Thank you for your comments. Thank you, Ellen. Thank you, Dorota. Ellen, thank you for joining us. Ellen Singer says thank you. It was really interesting. And what is the fee? The fee is click on the links that we said in the comments, and because most probably on LinkedIn is not reshareable, I'm going to share it in a moment, and you can take a look at the fees, and you can use also the discount code, and definitely you can directly contact us if you have any more details about Dorota's courses. Is there anything else you would like to add, Dorota? Thank you so much. We're on time.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
I wish you success to this initiative. I know that I don't know if you would like to talk about your book or anything else that you are doing.
Well, I published a book for freelancing mothers, so for women who want to continue their freelance business when they become a mother. It shares, it has interviews with 15 women from around the world. They share their experience, and I share my experience. So if that's something that may interest you, you can check the book as well.
Yeah, and definitely we discussed of having another live in the future on a different topic that you cover. So it would be lovely for me to have you again in the future, anytime that you feel ready and you would like to join us in the community. Thank you all of you for being live with us. Next Friday, different topic. Comment whenever you watch the recording and ask us anything. And of course, we're going to share the resources. Again, reminder, the discount for Dorota's courses are valid until Monday. So Gosia says very interesting discussion. Thank you, Gosia. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining us live. And definitely one last reminder, because I'm starting also the Ultimate LinkedIn Prospecting System, a very different localization program, but for those that they want to excel on getting clients and become confident on using LinkedIn as an outbound approach, okay, to get clients in a very professional way, not salesy, not pushy. Definitely join me. We start on Monday. The doors are open until Monday. So definitely, if you have any questions, book a free call with me. I would answer any of your questions. So thank you so much. See you in the group, and let us know if you have questions. May you share course link? Definitely, Mustafa. I think I've said it, but I will share again later individually because I'm resharing through a tool. Some channels the link has not been reshared, so I will check later all the channels, and I will reshare again. The links. Thank you so much. Mustafa, to which one are you interested in? Let us know in the comments. Yeah, some people are still sharing other links. Okay. So thank you all of you. We will sum up, but use the link for the discount. Yes, the link for the discount is the one that I'm going to share right now. So see you in the group. Okay, they can't wait for your courses, Dorota. Okay, so we join you both, Dorota and myself, in the group right now, okay, to continue the discussion. Thank you all of you for being here live. Thank you, Dorota. It was so nice meeting you after so many years.
Likewise.
The discount code, I didn't get it. I'm going to write everything right again. Okay, thank you, all of you. Thank you, Dorota.
Thank you, Gina. Bye.
You stay here, okay, with me.
Yes.